Bernie Sanders has, of course, been doing pretty well in the media, amongst the public, in his run for the presidency. But now the opposition is starting to rise, and some of the defenders of Hillary Clinton are coming out on the cable news shows, and they're launching their attacks against Bernie. They themselves are perhaps feeling the burn. So in this video, you're going to see this is from late last week on Morning Joe. It's Senator Claire McCaskill, a Democrat. Bear that in mind because you're not going to be able to tell from the things that she says. But here is her view of Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders is doing quite well in the polls, and I guess we're wondering, we know you're ready for Hillary. Do you think there's any concern there?
No, I think the media is giving Bernie a pass right now. I very rarely read in any coverage of Bernie that he's a socialist. I think everybody wants a fight, and I think they are not really giving the same scrutiny to Bernie Sanders that they're giving to certainly Hillary Clinton and the other candidates. So she's going to win this, and as soon as I think they begin treating him like a serious candidate instead of, oh my gosh, it's so great, we've got a fight in the Democratic Party, I think it will become very clear. Any other candidate that had the numbers that Hillary Clinton had right now would be, talked about as absolutely untouchable, and all of a sudden, oh, Bernie.
Right.
I think it's. I think Bernie is too liberal to gather enough votes in this country to become president, and I think Hillary Clinton is going to be a fantastic president.
It's funny because she doesn't really realize it, but what she's essentially saying is the establishment doesn't take him seriously.
Yeah.
So let's move on.
Yeah.
Just because the establishment doesn't take him seriously doesn't mean the American people don't take him seriously.
Yeah.
And also, I love that. If you pay close attention, she basically says, well, they're really tough on Hillary. They're not really tough on him at all. I feel like the media has been extremely tough on Bernie Sanders.
I mean, certainly dismissive.
Dismissive, yes. So, and that resonates with people who watch news shows. If hosts are dismissive of a politician, then that's going to somehow seep into society, and people are going to think, well, maybe this isn't a serious candidate.
Yeah.
I think that's more damaging than taking someone seriously and questioning their policy ideas.
Yeah, and look, speaking from our point of view, where we're discussing politics every day, there are a number of different ways that the media can be critical of a candidate. If we identify a policy they're in support of that's bad for the country, we will talk about it. And when we find one that Bernie Sanders supports that's bad for the country, we will talk about it then. Of course. If we can point out some hypocrisy, we will, but he has been consistent for more than 4 decades in terms of his values and his politics. If they're involved in a scandal, we will point it out. We'll point out those things as soon as they exist, but it's not our job to just make it up to keep things interesting. And also, so I love that she said, nobody says that he's a socialist, which, yes, everybody is saying that he's a socialist. And I love that she is. Yeah. Is she Ted Cruz attacking socialism? You are still a Democrat, okay?
She's an establishment Democrat who is supportive of corporatist Hillary Clinton. It doesn't surprise me that her commentary came off the way that it did.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, he's too liberal for America. This is the Democratic senator. He's too liberal for America, but Hillary Clinton's going to be great because Hillary Clinton sure ain't too liberal for this country, which is true. That's the one true thing that she said there. We've got some more Claire McCaskill. Here is video 2.
What do you make of these massive crowds he's getting and the impact that could have on Hillary's message? And they do account for something, don't they?
Well, Rand Paul's father got massive crowds, Ron Paul. He got the same size crowds. Pat Buchanan got massive crowds. It's not unusual for someone who has an extreme message to have a following, and massive is relative. I think Hillary had a massive crowd at her announcement, certainly as large as any crowd that Bernie Sanders has had.
You know what? This is actually a good thing. Because if Hillary supporters are asleep at the wheel and they don't take a potential threat seriously, well, who knows? You could see a repeat of 2008.
You could. Yeah.
And that's a great thing.
Sleepy. Yeah. So she says she is very correct. These massive is relative. Unfortunately for you, it is relative to the size of the crowds that Hillary Clinton is drawing in. Now, look, this video is from before Bernie's Wisconsin speech that brought in 13,000. So I'm not going to fault her for not knowing about that. But he brought in something like 13,000. Her announcement speech, which she was speaking of so favorably there, brought in 5,000 people, which is a perfectly respectable amount. It's almost as much as Bernie was bringing in Iowa the last time he was there. It's good. It's just not as good as Bernie Sanders is bringing in. And this is a woman who has had supporters for a number of decades, who people know everything they need to know about her, and she still can't draw crowds as big as Bernie Sanders, despite the fact she came so close to being the nominee last time.
Yep.
Still can't bring it in.
It's all relative, though.
It's all relative. And then also she's comparing him to Ron Paul. Like, she can only compare him to Republicans for some reason. So dismissive. I wonder how that's going to work out for her. I think we have one more Claire McCaskill video.
By being, frankly, a socialist.
Senator, you said Senator Sanders should get more scrutiny. Just name 3 specific positions he holds that you think are too far left, too socialist to be electable.
I am not here to be critical of my colleague Bernie Sanders.
Well, but Senator, with all due respect, you already were. You said he was socialist and non-electable.
Well, I do believe that.
So what are 3 examples of things that prove your point?
Well, I think he would like to see Medicare for all in this country, have everybody have a government insurance policy. I don't think most Americans want government to have every insurance policy.
That's one. 2 more?
Okay.
I bet you
Wow.
never knew you. I mean, this is like Halpern. What is this? Law school?
Oh, God, I love that clip. I love how Scarborough's like, are you acting as if we're on a news program where we ask real questions? Shut the fuck up.
He literally can't recognize journalism when he sees it.
He's like, what
What
the
is this?
fuck
Is this
was he wearing?
economics? Is this basket weaving? I don't know.
That was ridiculous.
Come on, Joe.
That was awesome, by the way.
I loved it.
That was a great question. I love that it was a tough question, and it wasn't a weak individual that he was asking the questions to. It was a politician who should be prepared to ask or answer hardball questions.
Yeah.
That was excellent.
Yeah. Oh, no, I loved it. I mean, I like that it still has to be kind of a joke. Like, oh, look at him being so tough on a politician. But she was incredibly flustered by it.
She was like, wait, you're asking me to give you information on policy ideas? I'm just here to smear him. He's a socialist.
Exactly. So the example that she did give was expanding Medicare for all. Which, by the way, you know who else is a big fan of Medicare? The American people. I have a feeling that if you were to sell it to them, they would be very much in favor of that, and it would avoid some of the problems that the ACA still has, because it is still fundamentally a private system of health insurance, just with some subsidies from the federal government. We don't have time to show you more of the video, but she also said that he wants to expand entitlements. Crazy person, Bernie Sanders, wants to expand as opposed to subtract the entitlements that you've been paying into for the entirety of your mortal life.
Yeah.
Crazy person. The American people would never want more retirement benefits after working their entire life. How would you ever win with a message like that? She said that he's too extreme to win. I watched part of his speech. He says that women should have the right to choose. People deserve to have a living wage. It's the most common sense, the most middle class centric and friendly message that you could possibly give. He says that we should, I guess the most extreme thing he says is that we should raise taxes on the wealthiest people in America. And I got news for you, that would be a popular message as well.
It's a message that doesn't resonate with the establishment that's been bought off by corporations.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
She is looking out for her donors. And Bernie Sanders would essentially make her donors irrelevant. And she doesn't like that.
No, especially when she's talking about a socialist. A socialist. Say it a few more times. See if that clears out his crowds. Anyway, so this is some of the early criticism of Bernie Sanders. Hillary Clinton and her minions were very hands-off early on, but they can see the fundraising numbers and they can certainly see and hear the crowds. And so it's only going to get more vicious as the days and weeks go by.